Hey, good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jason Queener. I'm a senior director on our sales engineering team, and I'm honored to be joined by Boris today. Boris, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jason. I manage product here at LiveVox. So again, thank you for being here with us. Jason, take it away, please.
Excellent. So, folks, look, I know we've got this slotted for about an hour. We're going to do our very best to get you out of here early. So let's just jump right into it with the agenda, and I'll take you through what we're going to go through. So first, we're going to kind of do just a brief, super fast overview if you're new to LiveVox, kind of who we are, and then we're going to talk about why we've built this feature, what it is, what it does, how it's configured, few Q&As, and then we'll get everybody out of here and talk a little bit about next steps. So, Boris, let's jump into it. For those folks that may not be super familiar with us, can you give us just a really high-level update about kind of who we are?
Yeah, absolutely. For those folks who are not familiar with us as a company, LiveVox is one of the leading contact center as a service platforms. We provide omni-channel communication paired with our contact center CRM platform, which optimizes agent workflows and creates automation for all of those employees in the contact center. And that's, of course, paired with our workforce optimization suite that provides analytics at all various levels within the contact center and for your organization. The company is headquartered here in San Francisco with international and national offices, about 500 employees. So for those who are not familiar, you've gotten just a really, really quick overview of what makes us special here at LiveVox. Jason, back to you.
So let's we're going to hop to the next slide here, Boris, and I want you to talk to us a little bit about why we built this tool. You know, I think in the environment today, we talk a lot about self-service options and the demand for those from our customers, but that's resulted in very complex engagements for our customers. So kind of walk us through a little bit about that from the agent's perspective.
Yeah, so there are sort of a lot of factors today that make operating a contact center, especially for the agents, more difficult than it's ever been. And, you know, I think that for some of the folks that are maybe on the phone with us today, a lot of you are contact center operators, a lot of you are feeling that. Some folks maybe are not. And so some of these may be surprising. But what are the factors that we're seeing sort of happening today? One of the first factors that we're seeing today, Jason, as you alluded to, sort of spot on, is the factor that there are so many great self-service tools out there for consumers that our agents are getting tougher and tougher questions on a day-to-day basis. They're asked to learn much more. They're being asked to solve much tougher problems. So in the course of the day where the agent had a nice mix of maybe easy questions, today they're just getting the hard ones. And all of this is happening, and it's creating a lot of really complicated tasks that they're asked to accomplish. And there's some really, really sort of complicated processes that go along with that. And especially in an environment that we've always had where turnover has been really, really high in the contact center, a lot of these agents are lacking the experience to know all of the processes, to know all of the tools, to know where to go. And that's, you know, really sort of stressing them out. And it's stressing them out not only from a work perspective, but it's also stressing them out because a lot of the agents we know have gone home or are working now remotely. So you can't just lean over to your friend or colleague and say, hey, how do I do this? I'm new. Can you help me out? Those remote working challenges have created really sort of an obstacle of how agents can collaborate. At the same time, you're faced with even greater sources or resources out there for consumers. Consumers are doing a lot of research. They're demanding, they see what other companies in the space may be doing and how much others are investing in the overall customer experience. And they're demanding some of those same things from organizations today. And this is all while we're seeing rising call volumes and a much greater scrutiny on overall performance metrics and efficiency overall of the contact center.
Yeah, Boris, it's really kind of a perfect storm, right? We're expecting so much more from our agents, both as service providers and customers, and the job has never been harder. So that's all great. And then let's talk on the next slide about what that looks like from the managers that are trying to support and train and develop these agents very often remote.
Well, we'll actually start sort of with the top, which is the customer and the consumer experience. I don't need to repeat this, but we've already talked about the fact that there are rising consumer expectations, and of course, during that, there's general pressure from whether it's operating managers or senior executives to deliver better service and deliver more. At the same time, attrition is a real problem, like we talked about it. And so you're having to get a lot of people up to speed very, very quickly. You're having to train and develop them, all to just kind of turn around and have to do that for the next batch of employees. And so how do you do that and still deliver great, consistent, and quality service? So the customer really feels like they're not getting a junior employee, that they're consistently receiving this great service, no matter how long an employee has been with a contact center. And it's really, really challenging because sometimes the tools aren't there. There's no real way to ensure consistency on 100% of the conversations, and it's become a difficult job, Jason.
Yeah, it really has. So on the next slide, I'm just going to really just kind of high level, just kind of summarize why we built this. And first and foremost, for the agents, we did it to guide them, information and support that's there when they need it to maximize success on every interaction. So the name of the game is first contact resolution. We want that customer's need answered. We want them answered quickly. And the key manual processes will be automated so they can focus on those really tough tasks. Boris, we use this term a lot when we do webinars, but I like to use the analogy of taking my kids bowling when they were little, right? And if those guardrails aren't up, you spend $100 to watch them throw the ball in the gutter for an hour. So Agent Assist is really another one of those really powerful ways to empower these agents with the guardrails and the guidance that you as a leadership team want for them. And then speaking of leadership, the value proposition is obvious for them. Even when you're not there, you can be there because you're giving guidance, advice, tips, reminders, and more importantly, warnings when you're not there, because the truth of the matter is, even if you're the best leader in the world, you can't listen to every conversation. Right? So Agent Assist is there for every conversation to be there when you can't be.
Absolutely.
Let's hop on the next slide and we'll pivot away from that, Boris.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. So, I guess, as they say, drum roll, what is Agent Assist? And I think we're actually going to go into each one of these. But as folks are on the phone, I want you to think about this product as really having sort of like 4 core tenets. Because everything that we've done to date and everything that we're going to continue to do around this particular product is really rooted in these 4 core tenets. The very first core tenet that we're really focused on is providing real-time transcription to the conversation as it's happening between the agent and the consumer. We want to make sure that it's accurate, and it's there really to do a lot more things that I'm going to talk about in a moment. So what is Agent Assist? Agent Assist at its very core level is real-time conversation transcription. Okay, what does that allow us to do? One of the efficiency points that it allows us to give to the agent community is the summarization of every single conversation after it's occurred. Okay, so no more talk and type, more of the, hey, here's the summary. It also, as Jason had put it, allows you to provide real-time recommendations and sort of pivots in the conversations and ways to manage the conversations through key recommendations. And lastly, it provides a much greater overview of your contact center in real time based on the actual conversation and what is being said versus just operational metrics that are occurring, and it provides an alerting capability. So again, to repeat this, great accurate transcription, efficiency through summarization, guardrails, and rules, as well as alerting capability for the greater contact center and other executives. So these are sort of like the four pieces. Okay, so let's go into it and let's talk about each one of these in detail. So the first core tenet, what it does is it provides that transcription service during every single conversation that happens. And then, of course, it actually scores every one of those conversations So that way, if you ever need to go back, if you need to analyze the conversation, if you need to look for keywords in the conversation, if you want to mine that from a data perspective, that's all there, that's available, and it's available to you in real time. So no more, hey, what happened 2 days ago, last day, 24 hours ago. As the conversation is happening, it's actually being transcribed. Okay, so what are we utilizing that for? One of the key capabilities here that we're utilizing that is the actual transcript. And what you're seeing here is on the right-hand panel, and something that the agent is seeing, is that overall transcript as it's going through. And, and as it's going through, and it's being provided at the end of every conversation, the agent actually receives a nice summary of that conversation that's based on a machine learning module that's built into the platform, and allows the agent to review the summary of the entire conversation, add or edit any applicable notes to that overall summary, and save that. Now, that actually gets saved into our contact center CRM platform, or it can actually be pushed to your system of record or any other CRM platform or any other repository that you may have in place. And from an efficiency standpoint, this just gives your agent that boost of efficiency, no longer having to type, sort of reminding them of all of the key points that were addressed in the conversation. So that way they're not missing anything, and somebody is not having what I would call incomplete notes.
So Boris, let's talk about that in kind of real life examples that I think everybody can relate to. And we already kind of prefaced this, but many of the contacts that agents are dealing with now with customers are customers that are escalated or frustrated. They couldn't self-serve. So by the time they get to an agent, it's imperative that we're resolving that call, that conversation with some sort of urgency. So imagine the transcription is great because maybe this customer is dealing with a hardship, and you're asking to verify some information about their financials or their personal life situation or what's got them in this situation. The transcript allows you to scroll back to what could be a potentially lengthy phone call and see those issues without having to ask that customer for that again. Likewise, the summarization is great. I mean, I like to brag that I was maybe the worst contact center agent in the world, and I was incapable of multitasking, and the old adage was talk and type. It's not really great, right? If I'm typing, I'm not listening. And the summarization is great because it frees that agent up to truly engage that customer, resolve the issue, and trust that the summarization will give a good record of where they were.
Absolutely. Spot on, Jason. In addition to that, there could be nuggets of information in that. And so that's, that's super imperative there.
Yep.
So, what are the other, potential pieces? The other potential pieces are key recommendations. And so those key recommendations are actually very dynamic. This is sort of one of the biggest reasons why people really gravitate to this. Again, in that particular right-hand panel, what you're seeing here, as the call is happening, the agent is being guided in terms of, well, what are the things that they should discuss? Did they state particular statements? Are there particular tasks that would be helpful during this conversation that they should either mention to the customer, or are there particular answers that could be helpful to that particular customer? We're actually going to talk a little bit later in the presentation regarding some use cases for different verticals or for different applications. But think of this as either verbatim, telling your agent to do something, suggesting a particular knowledge base article, reminding them of a compliance disclosure that you may need to deliver or end the call with, and or even treating certain customers or talking to certain customers in particular ways. It even actually could guide your agent to really sort of read into the sentiment that the customer is having based just on the words that the customer is utilizing and sort of the tonality of the entire conversation. So really helpful. Maybe this is somebody's first contact center job, or maybe they somewhat need a little bit of a nudge in the right direction. or maybe they're just having a bad day. This is doing this on every single conversation, and this is a really, really powerful tool.
Yeah, it really is. And Boris, as we hop to the next slide here, we're getting a bunch of questions. Some of them fit in perfectly where we are. So I want to just answer one of them now to reiterate a comment. The question was, can transcriptions and summaries be available to export both? And the answer is yes. So with that, let's hop to the next slide, because I think it's even more than key recommendations, right? We can go in, and you're talking about automated alerts and actions, right? And this is, again, really, really powerful, because you can use APIs and alerts and text messages to take action if something is said or done by your agent or the customer. So let's think about it in the most basic of ways. The customer says, I'm not happy with you, and I'm going to go on Twitter and tell everybody about it, right? You can use that phrasing to notify, hey, listen, let's be proactive here and try to reel them back in. Or on a really, unfortunately, darker scenario, the customer says something like, you know what, I'm going to call in a bomb threat. We know that we can trigger immediate alerts to leadership to take action on that to protect those agents. Likewise, you can streamline contact center workflows, knowing if this happens, then this. So if a customer, for example, says, I'm considering bankruptcy, you can trigger a workflow to help that agent navigate that conversation effectively for both the customer and the agent. And lastly, we've said it a few times, but it just absolutely boosts efficiency and productivity and frees up those managers to do what we want them to do. We want them to coach and develop agents. Okay. So Boris, next slide here. Let's talk about what I think is the most important part, because I talked about kind of empowering your agents. The really important thing to know about Agent Assist is it does exactly what you need it to do, and only exactly what you need it to do. So it's never going to give your agent bad advice. It's never going to guide your agent a place you didn't want it to guide them. So you're setting the parameters, you're setting the rules, you're setting the alerts and notifications, and you're using the learning in our platform or your platform to understand what your most frequent intents are, why your customers are calling, what your agents are struggling with, and building that out to help your agents resolve those contacts quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is
a little bit more on that.
Yeah, this is a great point, Jason. What we really focused on from a product perspective is making this simple, but again, highly, highly effective for employees and administrators that are actually looking to set those rules. So what you're seeing here is a rule being set. You're setting it either for a group of agents, the entire contact center, a particular service and or department within our platform, as we call it. And you're stating, hey, is this a word that's being matched? Is it based on the length of the time that a call has gone in and we didn't hear something? Is it based on the sentiment? And you can get, fairly granular to this, and we have a number of parameters. We're of course working on more, and from there you can add an agent suggestion. You can add a simple suggestion like, hey, here's a particular sentence of something that we want to do, in this case a promotion. You can reference an external document that you may have internally located somewhere within your knowledge base. We of course have a knowledge base system too, so there's another opportunity. You can call an outside service via an API and be able to grab additional data from there as well. You can actually develop your own page and your own creative here within the platform. So there are a number of different ways, and we've tried to make this as easy and as efficient for our contact center customers as possible in order to be able to trigger an action on these particular rules.
And Boris, I think we encourage best practices here, but the greatest best practice for Agent Assist is start smart and start small and start with your greatest hits and expand. If you have a Ring doorbell, I think you can relate to those false alerts of a cat or a bug walking across your doorbell 50 times. You don't want to inundate your agents or your leadership team with alerts that aren't necessary. So this is really meant to be precise guidance on issues to help that agent get better, not annoy them.
Absolutely, Jason. And then in the same vein, we've also added to this, obviously, that functionality that we talked about before, which is the notifications. So here we're designing a notification. And the nice part is you can think a little bit about whether it's like a super important, I'll call it like the red button being pressed, and it's something that needs like a 5 alarm, or if it's something that's a little bit more nuanced, whether you just need to send out an SMS message to a group of your employees internally, maybe it's an email, or even better yet, we have things in here where you can actually insert these alerts into a work queue task. So as an example, you may have a situation where the call didn't really go well and you'd like an employee or a manager to review that. You can actually say, hey, when this happens, when we have bad sentiment on both the agent and the customer side, let's just put that into the work queue task of the manager, and then they'll review that whenever they have time, and they'll utilize that as a coaching opportunity. So much more efficient than having that same manager having to go back and listen to all the conversation, and I would call it like find that sort of needle in a haystack situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's move forward and talk regarding a few use cases and how those use cases may be applicable to different parts of the organization. So this is very applicable, of course, to anybody that's operating a customer service or retention department or any sort of help desk department. You may ask me why. Well, Boris, why would anybody sort of like purchase that? If you want to deliver great quality of service, you want to get your agents trained, you want to make sure that they're knowledgeable in all the various different ways and have answers to all of the problems, even if those may be edge case problems. This is a great tool for you to efficiently and effectively operate a customer care center. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think the use cases get even more interesting when you start to think a little bit about operating a sales organization as well. Mm-hmm. So in a sales organization, every conversation, every real dialogue is like gold. This is an opportunity, of course, to convert a prospect into a closed deal. But what works and what doesn't? And when you hear certain words, what do you want your agents to instinctively come back with and say next? This gives you an opportunity to refine and make effectively your very best talk-offs, your guideposts for all of your employees working in a lead gen or a sales contact center. So think of it when a competitor gets mentioned, when price is being questioned. How do you want your folks to sort of address those particular needs? How do you make sure that the buyer receives the right documentation right there in a call? Well, you can make those smart suggestions really, really effective, and you can really improve your close rates as well.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, Boris, and I'm gonna squeeze an answer to a question in here as well. You're selling widgets, and you just got a great promotion on an offer that you have for your customers. That's immediate. I go in and I adjust. Hey, don't forget to remind them about the new promotion, that they're an ideal customer based on what they just said. Sell them 10 of them for X. So it's the ability to configure, to your point, really on the latest available information to get those agents what they have. Likewise, with the turnover, especially in the sales world, you know, the expectation that agents will understand everything about every product they're offering is really tough. So knowing to guide them to knowledge bases, to your point earlier, when the customer is interested in a specific product or has questions, really powerful for the agent.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then one other use case that I do want to mention is the highly regulated industry. So if you're in financial services and you're joining our call today, or if you're from the healthcare industry, you know that one of the really sort of important components is making sure that all of your agents are delivering the right disclosures and delivering that consistently and delivering that timely. If it's based on what the customer has said to you, or maybe it's based on how long the call has gone in from a start point or an end point, it's really, really important. And sometimes agents are busy, they're distracted, they're not maybe having the greatest day of all time. And even though they've said this disclosure many, many times, you know, it just takes one call for there to be a violation. So help yourself and help your agent prevent those sort of oops moments. You can actually create notifications. Those notifications can actually be triggered based on time in the call, or certain things not being said based on the time variable in the call. And this really helps to create really a great level of consistency all the time through every single conversation. Again, really powerful tool for those folks in the financial services space, in the healthcare space, of course, in the mortgage servicing space, and of course, others as well.
Yeah, and Boris, before we hop to the next slide here, it's a good time to answer another question that we have in the panel. And the question was, you know, can we remind the agent to say things we don't hear? And you hit that one, but we can also affirm that the agent finally did it. Okay, you got there, good job. Now let's go on with the rest of the conversation. So absolutely can do that. It can be time-based, language-based, and again, affirmation based on what we hear. So Boris just went through a lot of use cases there. Let's talk about the real financials behind it. The ROI is real, and I'm just going to give you a very basic example of a contact center, and I'm not going to go through every single cell of this document, but to put very simply, we're going to talk about 40 agents here with an average handle time of about 330 seconds. Okay, that's a pretty standard average talk time for a customer contact. When you take into account how much an agent costs, how much service inquiry costs for a customer, repeat calls and contacts, you get an average month agent cost. If I can decrease that average handle time by 10%, in this instance, 33 seconds, by empowering those agents and giving them the tools they need to reduce silence and hold times and lookup times and repeated questions, you're talking about an ROI of 694%. To put that in perspective, if I can decrease my average handle time by simply 4 to 5%, you're talking about an ROI on this product of over 300%. So it's real and it's powerful and it's day one immediate, right? And this doesn't even take into account how quickly you can ramp up agents now, from your training room to your call center floor. It doesn't account for how you're able to uptrain and support your agents remotely. I mean, this is a hard number there. This isn't a soft ROI, which really takes us through the roof for us.
Absolutely. You know, we've been talking to a lot of customers and prospects over the course of the build out of this product. And, you know, there's obviously been an evolution of this throughout the years, but the technology that's available today has really made this possible and has made this really ROI possible for folks. And a little bit of creativity, I think, goes a long way to the value that can be delivered. So Jason, I think we were right on your promise of about a 30-minute.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear the questions. So
I've got it. I think we sprinkled in a bunch of, there's a handful here that we didn't get to, and I'm going to try. And again, I apologize if we didn't get to you. We'll do our best to reach out after the fact and make sure that all your questions are answered. Boris, I'll give you this one. Actually, I'll take this one. When you're importing summaries into your system, will you know about the previous contacts and the previous summaries that have taken place? Absolutely.
Yes.
Next one is going to be for you, and this one came through about 10 times. How do you calculate, or how do you price this? Is it per agent, per enterprise?
Yeah, it's I think a lot of folks are probably fairly familiar with the model, but I'll talk a little bit about the two, and you actually will see this we'll see a little bit of our new pricing structure on our website. Whether you're a new or an existing customer, you can actually purchase this in two ways. You can actually purchase this on a per agent basis if you're a contact center that buys everything else with us on a per agent basis. And if you are buying from us on a consumption basis or a per minute basis, you can also buy the product that way. So we kind of actually offer you two ways to buy this product.
Excellent, thank you. Boris, I'll take this one. Is for those of you on the webinar, we have some customers on as well, but for those of you who are our customers, the question was, do I have to have UCRM to use this tool? The answer is no, but it certainly makes it immensely more powerful. Would you say that's a fair answer, Boris?
I think that's a very fair point, Jason. I don't want to talk a lot about you know, our other tools and other products. Obviously, I think they speak for themselves. We've done a tremendous job with that. It kind of brings a lot of things together, whether it's the consumer data, prior interaction history into a single screen. But you absolutely do not need to have our contact center CRM for this.
Boris, two more quick ones and we'll get everybody out of here. Does it support bilingual Spanish and English?
It does, yes.
Okay. And last one for you, and I think we covered it, and I apologize if we didn't, but the question was, can it push text notifications to users not on our platform?
Absolutely, absolutely. it can do that as well. I think there was also one question regarding redaction. Yes, we can support redaction identified in the platform as SSN and credit card numbers, debit card numbers. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, Boris, before I turn this back over to Johnny, I appreciate your time and everybody that attended. Johnny, I think you have some housekeeping to finish up with, but again, thank you everybody for your time today.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, all that's left for me to do really is just to say thank you so much to Boris and Jason for taking us through that. Thank you to everyone that joined us today and took time out your day. I know everyone's very busy. And then just to remind you that this was fully recorded. We're going to send you an email with that recording along with some associated resources in the next 24 hours, I hope. So look out for that. If you want to share this with your colleagues, then obviously we would encourage you to do that. If you would like to find out more about Agent Assist and you have a LiveVox account team already, reach out to them directly. Or if you don't have one, then you can reach out to us at info@livevox.com. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.